Talent Management Conference is set to start today and will focus on new solutions in a search for talent and management in an ever-changing digital world. I interviewed the Managing Director at Accenture Digital here in South Africa, Naik, who is one of the keynote speakers at this week's conference. Technology is developing at a fast pace, continuously introducing new products and services into every market around the world. But many businesses are simply not keeping up. As the pressure builds for businesses to remain competitive in this ever-changing digital world, workers with a new set of skills are needed. Now, the inaugural Unisa Talent Management Conference will take place next week and is set to define the next practice in talent management. Now, joining us today is the Managing Director at Accenture Digital in South Africa, Naik. Good morning, Lee.
Morning, Eben.
One of the main themes of the summit is disruptive innovation. Just tell us what that is.
Well, the reality is that the world is changing right now. So we as citizens, governments, organizations live in a place that's highly disrupted. The way things worked 5 years ago and the skills we needed 5 or 10 years ago clearly has changed. In fact, there are jobs in place today that didn't exist 1 or 2 years ago. So how do we keep up with the pace of surviving in a market that's under high pressure, job losses that are currently happening? How do you drive survival at an employee level and as an organization level to drive our very success in the marketplace?
Talent management, the concept, just explain it to us.
Talent management embraces the entire process of attracting the right people into an organization, honing the skills they need to execute their jobs, and keeping them continuously improving to discharge their responsibilities throughout their career.
You talk about the changing world and adapting to change, and of course change being the only constant that we know. Why is it important for you to escalate a wider discussion around this?
Well, one of the biggest things we've seen is that this world is disrupting, and the kind of jobs that we need to execute on is very different than we've previously had. So some of the skills that individuals need, they wouldn't get traditionally via the universities or technical college. We've got to find new ways to embrace the changes in the landscape by putting in practices in place on talent management to allow individuals to skill up.
The themes, the critical themes that will be discussed at the conference from next week, what are those that you'll be looking at?
One of the key things I'll be looking at is something called reimagining the workforce. It talks about the disruptive nature of technology and how that comes together in the workforce, where technology, robotics works alongside humans. So we're starting to see individuals upskill in new and diverse ways. So previously, we'd have to go to universities, schools, and do long courses. Now we're able to tap into something called MOOCs. MOOCs standing for Massive Open Online Courses, where you and I and those around us can acquire skills to make us relevant in the marketplace. Other topics being covered go all the way from talent strategy and organization strategies to embrace this changing workforce.
Is this process happening right now organically amongst young people? Or is it a question of us having to change gear to get young people to understand where the world is going?
That's actually a great question. I would argue that most organizations don't know how to deal with these millennials. As a millennial, they've been born in a highly digital world. They've been used to their iPads and Android devices. And most organizations are geared up for a very manual and a physical setup. So part of the change and the discussion that happened next week is how do we organize, what processes are in place, what culture do we promote for the youngster that wants to work in a totally different way to the way we worked 10 to 15 years ago.
Tertiary institutions, the pressure is obviously on them to bring people into the workplace that can adapt to change and that kind of welcome change and are not afraid of technology. Are our tertiary institutions dealing with this enough, or are we seeing the people coming out of our tertiary institutions lacking a little bit?
Well, I think that the universities are starting to embrace the need that they have to change. This conference is one of those things. I think, however, that universities aren't doing nearly enough. They are being challenged by online education, courses that you can now consume, in many cases, free of charge or at a much smaller basis. We call these nano degrees. So I think university will have to evolve to cater for both traditional students who want to pursue a normal academic career, but as well as to pursue very short-term courses that allow education organizations to put people into the marketplace to empower the economy in a much shorter space.
How do you at Accenture, for instance, how do you keep pace of technology that is changing so fast? What is hip today is gone tomorrow.
Absolutely, and that's another great question. So as part of our organization, we have an internal capability, a research lab that keeps track with the changing landscape. So not only do we embrace the changes happening around in the world, we start to look at the services and the products we offer to change as the environment changes. The second thing we do is we look at how we execute on these services. As part of reimagining the workforce, we look at how we can partner as part of a broader ecosystem with our peers, with our competitors, with academics to deliver on services in new ways that we haven't done before.